How do we determine who's top team? It's like, you know, it's information that you figure out eventually. But, yeah, they're just asking, and it's like, oh, first time. You pinch your little cheekies. Am I sure that's the right bracket? Yes, that is the right bracket. Okay. Participating. Alright, so I'll go ahead and explain this out loud, which, keep in mind, guys, it's a 3-minute delay, so every time I have to explain something to chat, well, I mean, if you're looking at chat, you might be impatient, but if you're listening, it doesn't matter. Okay, anyways. I'll do have the introductions, though. On the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Suppy. Yes, that's Suppy, the Suppy you know from years and years ago. In the bottom right is the Red Terror, and it is Cuddlebear. His logo is a bear, so I didn't bear me. I'm just like, that's... Okay. It's invitation, or... Alright. Oh, pool first. Actually, a gas first, to be clear, from Suppy with the pool, of course, alongside it. Alright, so... Guys, this isn't the only way you get into Challenger, and this is how you get into Challenger, not like directly seeded into like the main tournament in spring, right? This is how to get into Challenger. There's 8 spots for NA, or at least, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and double check that because NA is the weird one. No, that's correct. Okay, cool. So there's 8 spots for NA, 8 spots for Europe. You get there by getting top 4 in either one of these brackets, today and tomorrow, but top 2, bottom 2, because it is a lower bracket as well. But there are already people who were qualified in due to either the latter qualifiers or because they were seeded in. So if you're looking at them at this list and you're like, I don't recognize any of these names because you only watch like, you know, later parts of Challenger or whatever, then you're probably not seeing them because they're already qualified. For instance, Neeb, right? Now, Scarlet would also have already been qualified, but she actually would not be participating in the Open Qualifiers / Challenger because she actually made it into GSL Season 1 via their qualifiers, and they have that rule which says that you can't do both, but don't fret, she might actually still be going to the main event in mid to late spring in Kiev because she's still allowed to go there and participate in the Open Bracket Tournament. She just can't go through this process and then get seated directly in there if she were to get high up in Challenger. Okay? Alright, is that Gucci? We covering it all? Alright then. We're Gucci.
Twitch Prime sub received. Thank you for appeasing the overmind.
Thank you, Husky21, for the 17 months baked. Which I was... No, headline. So that early pool didn't really lead to very much. We do have faster gas than normal, but Suppy's not going for any more lings. So while this could be an open opportunity to go ahead and delay that command center and force the lift off and force the Hellions to awkwardly come out, of which there aren't reactored ones. So this could have been a very good attack by Suppy. We're not getting that. Suppy went for what is a less economical opener, didn't really get what he wanted from it, didn't get anything from it, and he's going on to that 3rd hatchery. So I'm not really sure exactly what he was maybe hoping to see or changed his mind or something, but it's a bit more of an awkward start for Suppy. Now, it doesn't really add up very much if we go into the game. Even at 8 and 9, we're not going to care, but we are definitely going to care about what Cuddlebear is doing. Now, Cuddlebear is going for a different type of opener. He is still getting some Hellions, but if Suppy's really paying attention, he'll see that there's a 1 at a time, which is kind of awkward, right? Like, if they're going to send the first 2 forward, they're going to send them together, if at all, actually, and then they usually wait for 4 if they want to be safe about it. So he does eventually swap over to that reactor, but this is just a little tiny poke full of, like... I say full of, but it's just literally 2 Hellions and 2 Marines and a Reaper, and I don't... Maybe that was his response. No, okay, I don't know. Maybe I should have been paying attention to exactly what they were scouting for each other instead of talking about the format. But something happened because we're getting into a normal game, but that opener was weird for both of them. I thought maybe Cuddlebear was going to add like a tech lab to the factory and then set up for like a very odd, but you know, odd in a good way maybe type of push over here, but that's not happening, so I don't know. Whatever. Hellions, Stim, Cloak Banshees, 3rd CC on the way here. Layer at a normal time for Suppy, and just working on his creep spread. If you guys recognize Suppy and you're like, hey, is he still any good at the game? Yeah, he is still good at the game. He is Grandmaster. And he does still have a lot of that tournament experience, even though it's not exactly, like, grounded in recent events. So as far as actually winning a best of, he still has the variety of builds and the confidence to do so. But he is up against Cuddlebear, who is one of those new foreign hopes, NA hopes, as well as a new Terran hope. One of them anyways, right? Not that he's made his mark quite yet, winning any of the big tournaments or even the smaller American lands, but still a certainly recognizable name if you pay attention to the NA scene. And more recognizable if you pay attention to the competition than like Suppy would be. This Banshee is actually getting a heck of a lot done. Luckily, the Lings and Banelings over here should stop the Hellions from doing much more, but they actually get 4 drones, so not too shabby. They don't actually get any of the Banelings killed, it looks like, and not too many of the Lings, so it was primarily those 4, plus the suicide, you know, in fact, the Baneling suicide on them, right? You know, whatever. This wall, by the way. This wall. It's an NA wall right there. Ooh, fast Spire from Suppy. Alrighty then. Now, back when Suppy was a serious competitor, he was definitely on everyone's vision, everyone's mind after he actually almost took down Parting, who this was back when Parting was like still kind of a god, not like more like streamer Parting now. He's still very good at the game, but you know, not winning like BlizzCons or anything. Yeah, Suppy had a unique style as well. So it wasn't just that he was actually taking on some of these top tier Koreans occasionally, it was that he also had a unique style. Him and Scarlet were pretty good friends, so they kind of just had sometimes similar builds, right, or similar ways of dealing with problems that was a little outside of the box. And so for instance, one of the ways that you did deal with 2-base Immortal all-in back in the day, guys, you know, the Immortal Sentry all-in that Parting did, the Soul Train, choo-choo, was that you, I mean, the normal way is, like, you try and time out your production correctly with Roaches and Lings, but the other way was to go for, like, mass Spine Crawlers, and that's what Suppy would do. He also was a really good Mutilate user, big fan of mutas, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that him and Scarlet would talk a lot, and his time in the scene as a serious competitor was around the time that Aspire was definitely the best thing to do. It's not so much anymore, right? But it is certainly something that you can do. It's kind of comes and goes as far as like how many maps seem to be viable for it and how often the person, the actual Zerg stylistically wants to go for it. So I like it, but it can be hard to utilize, right? You're gonna have that slightly weak point where you don't have upgrades, you don't have a lot of gas to put in a lot of Banelings. But your mutas should be able to cover it if you're using them quite well. But those mutas have not actually been able to show themselves quite yet, plus Cuddlebear is prepared for it with the scan on the Spire. So they're not going to do any SCV damage, they're not going to draw this army back, and it's a very easy cancel on the 4th base for Cuddlebear, who also now gets this nice position on the ridge. So that's a disappointment, but Suppy's not done yet. The mutas might not be able to do anything, but maybe a Ling Run by could. There are some Marines available, but the supply depots are in fact down. In fact, also not quite. There we go. The man is covered, and the Marines of the medevac should be able to take care of these Lings, no problem. A slight distraction, which maybe could have been huge had there been like 20 Banelings ready to go here, but there was only 4, and Cuddlebear didn't even have to look to take care of them. He just instantly got DPS down, so I'm afraid that Suppy might just be at a lack of ground units. The mutas can't really help in a situation like this. Maybe now that the Marines have been stemmed and a little damage, they'll be able to help clean this up, but it's going to be at great losses. 3, maybe 4 mutas going down. Banelings being target fired, the tank still on the high ground doing damage, and Suppy knows that he can't actually recover from this, not really, so he taps out. GG. Cuddlebear, again, that was an odd opener. I guess maybe something happened. Made him believe he couldn't get the reactor, and whatever. Anyways, the follow-up, the 3-base attack, really nice and clean, and Suppy was not quite able to do anything with that Spire choice, didn't have the creeps right on that 4th base to buy some more time. Just wasn't really prepared for it. GG. Looks like we already got some of the walkovers. Game time didn't show up, and Avillo didn't show up. Damn. I was hoping that game time would appear, but They technically aren't out of the tournament yet. They go down to the loser's bracket. But if they don't show up here, then they're probably not going to show up in general, which is just kind of weird because they checked in. I don't understand when players do this. Oh. The German caster is, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's, you know, English is his first language, but... Apparently I'd set the Team Liquid sidebar to the wrong WCS. I set it to number 2, which is tomorrow. But the way that he opened up, he wasn't like, hey, your Team Liquid, you're going to touch Team Liquid, by the way. He was like, why aren't you listed on TL? Did you forget? No, I didn't forget. I just messed up. God. You took the one closest to me. You took right before the last game. Bad cruise rate. I guess they're talking about previous games. Which I agree with Cuddlebear. So that is usually the base that Zergs take. With really a lot of emphasis on bringing creep to there. So it's not awkward to see that he took that base. But what is awkward is that when you're going for the faster mutas, I think that you are going to just immediately be disadvantaged. I'm talking about that weak point. And in that game especially, not only had maybe less ground units and no upgrades, but also no creep spread, which is, yeah, that was definitely a big part. It's also like if he had taken the other base, the middle one or the one to the right, then Cuddlebear would have had to spend more time getting there, which might have been that time bought for Suppy to actually get to appropriate amount of units. That's what Cuddlebear was pointing out, being a good neighbor, good NA neighbor. Because Suppy asked for it. He wasn't just like, hey, man, you suck or anything like that. they were actually having a conversation. In the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Suppy. In the top right, as the green Terran, it is Cuddlebear. And you know what? If they're talking about previous games already, then they clearly know each other's styles. And Cuddlebear's opener, even though he didn't actually literally scout the gas pool first, might have been around the idea that Suppy almost always does this. I know that Suppy, like, I feel like it was like a year or two ago, I saw him talking in chat or on a stream or something like that, where he was like, honestly, I don't know why people... You know what? I'm actually might be misremembering. I don't want to, like, attribute a quote to him, like, and it's totally wrong. Might as well say it's from, like, Albert Einstein or whatever, but I feel like there was time where him, or maybe it was Snoot or something, were like, yeah, the pool first opener really isn't that bad, so, but it keeps you safe against those 2-axes, so, like, I don't know why people don't do it. But that's just sort of pool first. I mean, to get the gas as well, and the pool, I don't know if you really want to make this your usual opener, but it seems to be for Suppy, and Cuddlebear might just be guessing it. I mean, he once again is going to go for Marines after Reaper with the supply depot, and we'll see if he holds off on the reactor as well on the factory. It's a very big map, so Suppy thinks you can get more damage done on this one than the last map. Well, that's not going to happen. It's going to take even longer. But if he does go for the follow-up of a lot of Lings, I do wonder if he can overwhelm Cuddlebear. You think if they have played so many games before, that Cuddlebear would be aware of that possibility and be relatively comfortable against it with the build that he chooses. So maybe that's something that Suppy has tried and said it's not going to work out, but still likes having speed like 15 seconds earlier and the ability to make, you know, obviously Lings and Queens faster in case it was an early pressure. I don't know. Well, regardless. NA is always a trip, you know, not just be, before everyone's like, yeah, because they suck. I mean, they certainly have their different styles. I'm not gonna go as far as to say that they suck, because, I mean, if they suck, then I'm actually trash. But, I mean, some other pro gamers might disagree. There's the whole conversation of EU versus NA and all that. But anyways, I don't have any dog in that fight. But they do have different styles a lot of the time. Yeah, sometimes it feels like, we see styles that are a little, like, old as well, more commonly. And then we do also see a lot of, I feel, not mind games, but people who practice a lot against each other. Where in Europe, I feel like, you just don't see as much, we certainly don't see as much banter, right? And then you don't see as much people being like, hey, you did this to me last time, so of course I knew what you were going to do. It actually happens, of course. Europeans also play against each other when you get to that very top level over and over again, but it just seems to happen a lot more in NA. So there's a lot more to read into than just like, okay, this person decided to go for this build because it's this map or it's this game in the series. It's also like a lot of, well, they play a ton together. A ton. So they're really trying to out-mind game each other, like Australia versus Puck, right? So it can be hard to read into, but... Third CC, Banshee, no aggression once again from Suppy. It's in the Bailey Nest and a lair. I did bring up this is a bigger map than the last one. And maybe that means Suppy will feel a little more comfortable going into a Spire, and he's going to try that again. Just kind of push the creeps a little bit more, and it's a different map, so automatically the base layout's going to be different. But Cuddlebear is not going to leave him alone for very long, unlike last game, where at least he left him alone until that third base attack. He's actually going to go for an armory. Now this is kind of weird, right? Because he swapped the factory off of the reactor and is going for a Cyclone immediately, which is just like very weird. He could have continued producing Hellions and gone up to 5 and then 7 because of the awkward first start and actually done a Hellbent attack. And it would have been at the time that Suppy had access to Banelings, so it doesn't mean that they automatically make Banelings, and sometimes it can still work out really well. This time, with only 3 Hellions, not doing a Hellbent attack, right? So he's gonna go for very fast +1, and I guess he is still gonna leave him alone for a decent amount of time. Totally expected to see on this map Cyclone Mech. This is not a big surprise for this map, and this shouldn't be a big surprise for Suppy either. But Cuddlebear's way of opening up with it is a little different. Only ZombieGrub casting NA Qualifier? There's other casters, but as far as, I guess, ones that you guys might recognize, then I might be the one. All right, so third CC moving out. 3 going up to 5 factories. It is that +1 armor immediately. If I didn't say armor, I definitely meant to say armor. Eventually we'll go into double armory, or I think we should, but priority on that armor first and foremost. Mutas are once again the choice for Suppy, and this time he will be getting to use them for more than like a minute and a half. Fourth base taken to the top side. That will provide one of the shorter attack distances between the two bases, but TVZ I feel like generally doesn't really revolve around pushes here. I guess it could if you really wanted to push the issue. Anyways, Suppy still has to recognize that it is Cyclone Mech, because as common as it is on this map, maybe Cuddlebear doesn't always do it on this map. Maybe they don't play on this map that often. Like, there's a lot of things that could still happen, even though they seem to be very familiar with each other. Suppy is still going for that Ling, Baneling, Muta composition that you would expect mostly against Bio. Certainly the Mutas start to fall off against the Cyclones, because Cyclones do a decent job against them, as long as they're kind of relative to the unit count, right? You don't have 20 Mutas and 2 Cyclones. And Mutas don't really help out in those initial, those main engagements, so you don't really want to see them. You don't usually see them. I don't think you want to see them in a longer game against Cyclone Mech, but if Suppy's willing to play with that style, then I'm certainly willing to see what the benefits are. The Lings is where it's still kind of interesting. Again, you don't usually see... Oh my god, look at those lock-ons. Ah, okay. Oh my god. Oh, almost every single lock-on got its target. Not a great start. Not a great start. Okay, so. Right. The Lings. Now, the Lings, if they get a wraparound on this entire army and the Banelings crash into the Hellbats, they actually don't do too poorly against Cyclones. Like, that can work for a little bit, but I'm still really hesitant about the Mutas. They're so expensive, and I feel like they're not going to be able to help like they should. I guess theoretically, if you get enough of them, they'll keep the Cyclones from moving out because you can always threaten counterattacks and run-bys and whatnot. But that's like, I don't know, that I could see that totally working. I'm not sure if it is going to work right. Creep Sumer Queens are going down. That is an important thing to take care of. Cyclones are going to run away from this fight, get the lock-ons when the Banelings roll away. That's what you always guarantee the kills on the Cyclones. If the Zerg's gonna try and run away with anything, Ling, Baneling, Muta, Hydra, Roach, you're gonna get those lock-ons, you're gonna get those extra kills. So the Hellen's going down, that's just minerals, they're super fast to produce, don't worry about that, don't feel like you need to take the engagement, and then grab onto whatever you can once they decide that they can no longer do it, or when you have a safe distance between you and your opponent. Super easy. Although the style in general is easy, but that portion of it is easy. Once they run away, she gets some lock-ons. Blue Flame is going to happen here soon. That is, I would say, a little late, but it's not, I mean, Cuddlebear might not have realized that Suppy really was going to stick on Ling Baneling until just there. Suppy is now going into some Roaches, but actually, if I feel like you're going to play this long of a game without Roaches, I feel like maybe going just straight into Hydras would be better, because you are on 4 bases with a lot of drones and a lot of gas, and you could maybe afford it, but Roaches are still the cheaper option. But they do take a lot more damage from the anti-armored upgrade of the Cyclone. We're currently at 21 Mutas. That's really not too shabby. Again, not as far as the direct engagements go, but as far as attacking into the bases go. Like, Cuddlebear could be very conservative or forced to be conservative with this style of play when you don't really want to be, but I don't want to say that you can't be. We've actually seen development in this style, right? Over the last, like, 6 months, yeah, give or take, where I think maybe it was really making the rounds when all those qualifiers, IEM, WCS was happening, and it was kind of still in its like infancy, and now we're seeing more and more styles and more perfection of the style. But theoretical talk later on. We got some Banelings rolling, getting a decent amount of damage. Mutas will lose their lives for this. There's no Lings to help out here, and if there were, it had to be a heck of a lot of them, so actually only one Muta lost their life. That's not too bad for Suppy. Suppy's also really starting to cover the map and creep spread, so when Cuddlebear is ready to go, if he ever gets ready to go to actually attack, he's gonna have a lot to chew through. Mech isn't as vulnerable to creep spread as like Bio would be, right? But it's still something that you want to be able to clean up and not give an advantage to your opponent. Blue Flame is done. Liberators are in high enough number that they actually will still kill Mutas if they are clumped up, and Suppy did not think that was going to be the case. Gets absolutely shredded. All the lock-ons also were easily on to those Mutas because nothing else was there to soak them up. Those Lings died instantly. But yeah, that wombo combo for Liberators is actually kind of the quote-unquote magic number. If the Mutas are magic box, the Liberators still suck. If the Mutas are in any way clumped up, 4 Liberators will actually still do damage. It's just that once upon a time, 1 or 2 Liberators would actually be pretty threatening to a Muta count. They certainly aren't now. So that didn't go so hot. Suppy had a lot of bank. He's starting to feel comfortable with all these bases, all this creep, all the options he seemed like maybe that was available to him. But when you lose an army fight that badly, you're going to have some trouble getting back into this game. But he does remax, or close to remax, pretty quickly. He's going to lose the last of the Mutas. They're really not helpful anymore. It's all about the Roach Ravager game, and that just isn't going to be a good long con. Suppy never got up to that hive behind all that aggression, which I think is a real bummer. If he had been able to produce 4 or 5 Vipers with a 173 supply, I feel like that actually is still okay-ish. He has to give up a base, but he's on 5 bases regardless, still on 71 drones. It's not that bad of a scenario, but because we're still talking about lair tech, I do feel like Cuddlebear is still going to take the better engagements and really start to get all the trades that you would expect from Cyclone armies, where they... At first, it's like, is the Zerg player really in that bad of a spot? And then 5 fights later, like, oh, okay, the Zerg player's really in that bad of a spot. Especially because Suppy had to deplete his bank that he was trying to accrue. Cuddlebear, meanwhile, going up to the 5th base. His 4 bases were given rather easily. Suppy is going to try and tech up. He didn't just immediately tap out after that really bad fight. And to his credit, you know, he doesn't have to. There is a chance here. Cuddlebear to not just instantly move in and get the win. But it is really difficult to do without those Vipers, or without any type of spellcaster. Fungals can also sometimes help out. But when you get up to the Liberators as well, I think that Vipers are definitely the way to go. This fight off creep. Be very careful. There's a ton of Corrosive Biles available. That's the good news. So the Cyclones are going to have to hopefully run so far away that they lose their lock-ons. But the bad news is they do still kill this army rather quickly when they do get a lock-on. So Suppy's still trying to remax here. He also spent a lot of minerals and gas and supply on Swarm Hosts, which I'm not that much of a fan of. In general, I don't really like the Swarm Host approach to Cyclones. But you have seen a couple of like more of those mid-game Swarm Host tech changes, and then they do end up piling enough pressure that the Cyclone player breaks. I don't know about this late into the game, but it's something that Suppy's going to try. And Cuddlebear might just be really surprised by that. There's a severe lack of Hellions right now, as I guess he's gotten comfortable with the idea that Suppy is going pretty much pure Roach. Thank you, Fatty Boom Bolade, for the 15 months. Alright, so the Swarm Hosts are about to be discovered. Actually, a scan reveals them. We still don't have any scan about the hive timing, which I would figure Cuddlebear is really curious about. Like, okay, hold on here. You're still not on any Vipers? What's going on? Suppy is on hive. He's still not going for Vipers. They actually have a dive towards a Greater Spire, which could be a good move, but you also got to make sure that you have a lot of Broodlords available. If you're only going to get like 4 or 5, then there's still a chance that the Cyclones can actually jump on top of them and do the damage that you need, or that he can start using his starports for Viking production, which Vikings are actually fine. Again, if there's no spellcasters and the Broodlord count's still kind of low, Corruptor count's still kind of low, that type of thing. But Suppy really has done a great job holding on past that bad fight, has accrued another bank, and while Cuddlebear has one too, it's very possible that if Suppy gets to that ultimate late game army of Broodlord Corruptor, that Cuddlebear might start to falter, getting a little too stubborn on the Cyclone side of things. It's possible, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Cuddlebear is in his own pretty good economic position, going for more factories, and he could definitely swap over into Thors, which wouldn't be fully upgraded, but they would do okay. You know, they'd at least have that carapace, the armor to survive the little broodling jabs. Actually, really would have liked to have seen Cuddlebear go for +1 attack. I know Nate talks about this all the time, but that actually does have a kill shot difference when it comes to Lings, and we had a very long Ling portion of this game. But it also does affect your Thors later on, because Broodlords are kind of the ultimate thing to get to. And Thors are really good against them, especially if they're fully upgraded. But alright. Locust so far doing a decent job, by the way. Swarm Hosts, I mean, they're not doing anything offensively, but they are helping hold the line. Every time I check out Cuddlebear's army, really evaluate what he has, it's a lack of Hellions. Broodlords are now on the way. 6 Broodlords, 4 more Corruptors. Cuddlebear, does he know about this? I don't think he's seen anything saying that they're already out. He hasn't seen the tech again. Gotta figure that it's an option, but if you're in the middle of a game, sometimes you start blanking on that. You get your horse blinders on. You're just thinking about the immediate army and not what could be coming behind it. And if he doesn't start thinking about that, then he's gonna have to hope and pray that there is an open engagement that Suppy leaves his Broodlords vulnerable, or he'll have a heck of a time stopping the flood across the map. And when, you know, Suppy were to get it all the way across the map with Broodlord and Fester, whatever else he gets here, and Cuddlebear's only just making Thors and Vikings, that could be dangerous. So this is the first indication, I'm pretty sure, of the Broodlord Corruptor. Got a couple of lock-ons on the Broodlords already, so that is nice. That's exactly what Cuddlebear wants to have happen. And in fact, Suppy once again leaving his Broodlords quite vulnerable. The Infestor tries to help out here, but just gets targeted, just gets killed by the Liberators. So the Broodlords are all going to die, except one of them ends up living. The Corruptor is also going to die here. Suppy was on such a low non-Broodlord, non-Swarm Host count. Right? He had like 15 Roach Ravager, whatever, 20. It just wasn't a lot to work with, and it was slightly out of position. So Suppy, instead of complementing his army, just increasing his army, just lost out there. And now lamenting about his economy, which is worse than it should be. You know, he got down to 58 drones. He stopped having a big bank because it wasn't really that big to begin with. And I guess if he had not done that, then maybe he would have been able to go harder into Broodlord Corruptor, or been able to also max out the Roach Ravager first. So definitely not an uncomfortable position for Suppy to be in, but then to also just be vulnerable like that really sucks. Cuddlebear did not have to transfer over into anything, and that is certainly a benefit of the style that we see here. If the Cyclones can catch, if they can really keep the pressure on the Zerg and catch those Broodlord counts when it's nice and small, or when they're not supported by very much else, then absolutely they will take on Broodlords, where obviously Hellion Tank doesn't. Bases so far. Yep. Another reason why I was like, I don't know about these swarm hosts. Not only do I wonder if he really would have been able to get across any map with the amount of pressure that was happening, but yeah, on this map it was going to be difficult to actually get anywhere. I like that they're discussing it. I mean, the Mute isn't having any airspace. I wonder how much that really is the problem. We don't really see mutas against Cyclone mech that often. I'm not doubting that there's a couple of cases where, you know, the pros are doing it, but it's not super common. I gotta figure that's a thing. Suppy hoping that, I guess, the Cuddlebear just makes a huge mistake. What the Liberator's here to help out. They one-shot those Broodlings. The Cyclones can actually jump on top of the Broodlords. And that's gonna be it. GG! Suppy will be forced to move down to the lower brackets if he decides to stay there. He will have